Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm excited, as always, to be with you today. I am going to be talking about one of my favorite topics because this topic is something that I have struggled with for probably the past 10 years, and I have recently, finally, come up with a solution that seems to be working pretty consistently. So I wanted to talk about it. It's a little bit, maybe a little bit controversial, but let's see. So what I want to talk about today is sleep, and more specifically, insomnia. So it appears that the more we're learning about sleep, the more we're realizing it is so much more than just rest. There is so much going on in the body when we are sleeping. And if your sleep is disrupted for long periods of time, it can really impact your health. Now, obviously, there are going to be certain stages that you go through in life, particularly as a woman, where you may have young babies, young children, and sleep disruption for that reason. It's unavoidable. And it's not really the kind of insomnia or sleep disturbance that I'm talking about here. So yeah, sure, we know that sometimes it really is beyond your control, and that's okay. That's just a season, and it has an end point for the majority of people. What I am talking about is sleep disruption and insomnia where there's really no reason for it. That's what's really frustrating, and that's something that I have personally experienced for quite some time. And I have quite fragile sleep. But as I mentioned, I've recently started something that is working really well. So let's talk a little bit about insomnia in the context of perimenopause. So my sleep issues started, I suspect now, looking back on it, I thought at the time it was stress, and I think that was an element of it. But I think also there was probably a perimenopausal element as well, because in my early 40s, which is 10 years ago roughly now, really not a lot was known about perimenopause. We were certainly not talking about it in the way that we are today. I'm so excited and thrilled, to be honest, that we talk about it so openly these days, and so much more information is getting out there. When I was in Bali recently on retreat and talking to women about perimenopause, just, as a conversation, it was still really quite eye-opening to me how many women had no idea about some of the symptoms that they personally were experiencing that were actually linked to perimenopause. And sleep is a big one that people don't think about. I mean, when I think back to my early 40s, I was working in the pharmaceutical industry at the time. I was traveling almost every week, so I was often getting up early for long flights and going through multiple time zones in a week. For those of my listeners that are not in Australia, when we're on summertime like we are now, there are, oh my gosh, I've forgotten how many time zones. I think there's at least 5 different time zones across Australia, which is a bit nuts. And I was living in Sydney at the time, so there was a 3-hour time difference between my home city and the furthest kind of city that I was traveling to, which was Perth. So it's pretty significant. Even though it was only 3 hours, it used to really kind of slam my body at times. And so, yeah, my sleep was terrible, and I had a lot of stress, and I was eating really poorly. I had no routine. So I just thought, that's why I couldn't sleep very well. And even now, not since I've been using my new method, so it'd be interesting to see if I have an early flight or something like that, how that impacts me. Because I do think when you have something like an early flight going on, it can mess with your mind a little bit, and you can wake up frequently waiting for that alarm to go off and worrying that it won't go off. So yeah, getting back on track. Sorry, I'm wandering off a little bit. So if we think about the impacts in our 40s, stress, work-related stress, family stress, financial stress, all of that can definitely impact sleep. But also then let's look at the hormones. And, as we know, as I've talked about a number of times, one of the main things that impacts our sleep when it comes to perimenopause is the drop in progesterone. The drop in progesterone impacts what we call our HPA axis. So the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, that's the H, the P, and the A axis, and it can destabilize the HPA axis. And that is responsible for many, many things in our bodies, but our stress response is one of them, our relaxation response, but also our sleep. Progesterone influences a number of neurotransmitters. Probably one of the more important ones for sleep is GABA. So we get less GABA being produced, and GABA is very calming for our brain. So when we have less GABA, it can make our brain or our nervous system more excitatory, and that can impact our sleep. That's just one example. So there's many reasons why perimenopause impacts our sleep. Estrogen also has a role in this. And so there's many things I've spoken about on the podcast that help with supporting your hormone balance for many, many reasons, many of those perimenopausal symptoms, not just sleep. So I'm not going to go into that because I have covered a lot of that. I just really want to drill down on sleep today because it is so important, and because so many of the women that I see have problems with sleep. So when we're looking at sleep, there's some things that we know for sure from research, and one is having a sleep routine. And part of that sleep routine is having, as much as you can, the same bedtime and the same getting up time, regardless of what day of the week it is. It's actually, they have found, quite damaging for your sleep structure or your sleep length, quality, all of these things, to sleep in on weekends to try and catch up on sleep. You are much better off getting up still at the same time on weekends, wherever possible, to keep your pattern, your body patterns or cycles very stable. Same with your bedtime. There's also part of that sleep routine does need to be a withdrawal from screens. That is super important, as we all know, because that really impacts your melatonin production. So we want to stay away from screens. We want to maintain a regular bedtime and getting up time. And things like that you enjoy, that relax you. So things like maybe having a cup of herbal tea, particularly herbs that do help with sleep, such as lemon balm, passion flower, things like that. There's some really beautiful sleepy teas. You can just go to your supermarket, go to your health food shop. Any teas that are labeled for sleep are going to be pretty good. Now, having said that, a lot of the dosages that you're going to get in a tea is not nearly as effective as it is if you're having an actual herbal supplement. But for me personally, I love having a tea. It's just a bit of a ritualistic thing for me. I enjoy it, and that is something that I find quite helpful. Even if the dosage of the herbs isn't actually going to be particularly effective, for me personally, there is something about it that I enjoy, I find relaxing, and therefore that's going to help me with as part of my sleep routine. Another thing that can be very helpful is to have a good quality magnesium. Now that can be in a tablet form, it can be in a drink, doesn't really matter. It's just got to be the right kind of magnesium. So ideally for my perimenopausal women, I'll always recommend magnesium glycinate, because the glycine part of that magnesium combination is really helpful for calming the brain as well. And so, yeah, magnesium glycinate. Also, magnesium citrate can also be quite a nice one to take as well. But magnesium glycinate would be my probably number one choice. So that is very helpful as well. If you like to have a shower or a bath at night, then that can be very helpful. Maybe pop some lavender oil in the bath or in the bottom of the shower, just so you're getting that beautiful anti-anxiety aspect from the components, the essential oil in the lavender. And there are also other things, obviously, from a mind-body point of view. The benefits of meditation are, of course, just very well known. Also, perhaps doing or instead of, because if you're not a meditator, that's fine. But using maybe some self-hypnotherapy, that is something that I started doing earlier this year. And I found that actually quite beneficial. It's just basically talking yourself into going to sleep, which sounds kind of a bit ridiculous, to be honest, but I have found that really helpful. It does. If you tell your body to relax and you tell your body to go to sleep, for some reason, it seems to work quite well. So there are some apps that, any kind of hypnotherapy app, check them out and see if they've got a sleep option, or you can probably find some stuff on YouTube or on the internet. I think they're all pretty good, to be honest. So that can be very helpful. I've personally found that very helpful as well. And also the other thing, which I've also spoken about before, is having low light. So once dinner is eaten, all of our overhead lights go off and we just use lamps. If you don't have lamps, you can use dimmable lights. Just really reducing the light helps your melatonin production. So these are all of the things that I've probably spoken about pretty much all of these in the past. And then I've actually added an extra layer, because despite doing all of those things, look, I can have some really great nights of sleep doing all of those things, but I've really failed to find consistency every night. Actually, there is one other thing I did want to mention, and that's from a dietary point of view. This is something that my clients see huge improvements in very, very quickly, is sleep when they go on their GLOW protocol. And I believe the reason for this is they're removing foods that are irritating. They're removing foods that may contain artificial colors and flavors and preservatives and other non-natural kind of additives. I think that makes an extraordinary difference. Even though you're only having micro amounts of these when you're having processed foods, removing that seems to make a huge difference to people's energy and sleep. Massive. So that would be something I would definitely recommend, is really supporting yourself with whole foods. Hydration, obviously, also very, very important. And just speaking of that, I'm just going to stop for a minute, have a drink. I'm just going to pop something on for you to listen to. I'll be back in a minute. How would you like to have increased energy, balanced hormones, glowing skin, and your ideal weight in just 3 months? Sounds awesome, right? Imagine having your very own hormone balancing and weight loss strategy totally personalized to you based on your body biochemistry to release excess weight, say goodbye to pesky perimenopause symptoms, and decrease inflammation in your body, which of course leads to decreased inflammaging. That's right, ladies, there are age-defying benefits as well. Oh, and of course, you have me at your fingertips for expert support so you never feel stuck or confused. I love supporting women on their weight loss journeys, and I've packaged up the award-winning Metabolic Balance Program with my signature hormone management system, giving you the GLOW protocol. This 12-week one-to-one coaching program is you and me, nailing down your health and weight loss goals, creating your personalized plan using your blood tests, a thorough health assessment, and your food preferences. And then we get started with me supporting you every step of the way. Even if you've tried everything, even if you have resistant weight and complex medical conditions, the power of personalized nutrition, mindset coaching, and my support is transformational and gets results. And I'm not even exaggerating, even if I do say myself. So if you're ready to embrace feeling like your younger self again, lose excess weight, manage health conditions, and regain your confidence, you can just DM me at Susie Garden Wellness or email me hello@susiegarden.com, and I'll pop a link in the show notes. All right, I'm back. I always do this. I make myself a cup of ginger tea with the intention of drinking it. And then I go, oh, I need to record my podcast. And I start recording. And then I'm like, oh, man, my tea is just sitting here and I really, really, really want to drink it. So, yes, anyway, self-care is important, people. So stop what you're doing, have a nice little cup of tea or a sip of water or something that makes you feel good, or even just stand up from your desk if you are sitting at the moment. That's another thing I'm really working on at the moment, is standing. This extra layer of goodness that I've just added in has been quite groundbreaking. It was actually my GP that actually was talking to me about different things to do, and I wasn't really going to be moving on any of them. Some of the things that she was discussing with me were some pretty strong medications, and I'm just not obviously into that unless it's really necessary. And I still felt like there were some things that I could explore. So one of the things she mentioned to me was CBD oil. And I'm not talking about medical cannabis. Obviously, that is a prescription product. And that is not something I'm referring to today. It is CBD oil. So CBD oil is the way, I guess it's mainly different from medical cannabis, and I am no expert, but it doesn't have the component in it that gives you the hallucination. So it doesn't have the THC. Okay, which means it's not a prescription product, and it's something you can buy very, very easily, certainly in Australia. I know very easily in the US as well, and I'm sure it's the same in Europe. If you're an Australian listener and this is something that interests you, I would strongly recommend getting a very good quality CBD oil from an Australian supplier. There are plenty of them. If you are really interested in exploring that, please feel free to DM me at Susie Garden Wellness. I'm happy to share where I'm getting mine from. But yeah, and also I would recommend not getting it in the gummy form. I would recommend getting just the pure oil. The taste of it is really fine. I actually thought it was going to taste pretty horrible. I thought it was going to be like a herbal tincture, but it's not really like that at all. So I've started using, probably since I got back from Bali, because obviously you can't take that kind of stuff into Bali. I started it. So it's been 2 weeks now, and the consistency of sleep from having 4 to 5 drops under the tongue of the CBD oil every night has been phenomenal for me. And if I wake up during the night to go to the loo, I feel completely fine. I don't feel drugged. I don't feel sluggish, feel completely normal. And I get back into bed and I go straight back to sleep, which was always the issue for me. Was getting up to go to the loo and then I'm awake for an hour and a half, not ruminating, not stressing about anything, just literally lying there going, why can't I sleep? Well, I know why I can't sleep, but I can't sleep, which is terrible. Reading has not helped me. There's been very little that's helped me in the middle of the night, unless I just grab onto some kava or something like that, which is really nice actually for sleep. It works in a similar pathway in that it also increases GABA in your brain. It's also a muscle relaxant, which is really helpful for sleep. So that is something that is really easy to get hold of as well. Some good quality kava. Again, I would recommend going to your health food shop and getting some advice from a naturopath or nutritionist on that one, rather than just grabbing something from the pharmacy. But the CBD oil, I have to admit, has just been incredible. And a part of my sleep issue is not just hormonal, but it's also I have a long-standing neck and shoulder injury from my operating theatre days when I used to be an OR nurse. And so sometimes it does wake me up with pain, and that I know for sure is impacting my sleep. So the CBD oil is also addressing that issue, which is a huge bonus. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it. So we know from research that CBD oil without the THC supports serotonin. So serotonin is your precursor to melatonin. So as you know, melatonin is your sleep neurotransmitter. So it's helping with that. It's also helping with GABA production. It decreases stress and anxiety. So it's working on that HPA axis. It works directly on the hypothalamus to get you more into your rest and digest nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, that is, if you're more familiar with that term, and it gets you out of your sympathetic nervous system, which is your stress response. It's also known to improve restless legs. So if that's something that's an issue for you, you may get some assistance from CBD oil. It's great as an analgesic, and that's what I'm experiencing as well, that it's really helping with my neck and shoulder. Something interesting, it seems to have some good, or promising, I should say, data in circadian rhythm disorders. So if your sleep disruption is because you're a shift worker, for example, or maybe there's something genetic that you have, maybe you have a medical condition, and this can actually also just be a part of aging, is this disruption to the circadian rhythm. So we know that in the context of circadian rhythm disorders, it can improve not only the quality of sleep and the quantity of sleep, it actually helps the brain progress through the normal stages of sleep that we go through, including our REM sleep, which is really important. There is still a lot of research that needs to be done, but this is really comforting. I think that it's actually helping the whole sleep structure. It's not just like with kava. Yes, it increases GABA and it relaxes the muscles, but it's not actually dealing specifically with the sleep structure. And so certainly, as I have to keep saying, I'm no expert, and I'm purely talking about my own experience with this, but also knowing that there is research going on in this area makes me feel very confident in using the product. There's also virtually no side effects or drug interactions either. Obviously, if you do have a complex chronic condition, if you are on multiple medications, this is absolutely a discussion to have with your medical provider. No question about that. I'm not encouraging people to just go on and purchase CBD oil, which is why I'm not talking about where to get it from. But I do feel that for many, many women out there going through perimenopause with uncomplicated medical situations like myself, that are really struggling with sleep, that this is something you could definitely add in to your sleep practice. Again, having a sleep practice is still really important. I really feel like it needs this multi-disciplinary, multi-pronged approach, so that you are covering all bases when it comes to sleep, because we know how important it is. I mean, as you know, I work a lot in women's weight loss, as well as in perimenopause and supporting women in menopause. And the more we're learning about sleep, it impacts on all of these things. It impacts on your hormones tremendously. It impacts on your motivation. It impacts on so many parts of your health. My gosh. So we really do need to get the sleep right, and it's sort of starting to almost become more, it's starting to overtake gut health as one of the kind of primary things that naturopaths and nutritionists are supporting is sleep, because our modern lives are really disrupting our sleep. So I think that's all I wanted to cover today. There's probably some things to add on to that. Obviously, just from an environmental point of view, actually, I will just add this before I sign off for today, is body temperature, particularly in perimenopause. Make sure that you've got light layers so you can control your body temperature during the night if you need to. That is something that I think is really important. Also, having a very dark room so that you can't make out objects in your room or wear a sleep mask, and having as quiet a bedroom as possible, or even looking at wearing earplugs to help with your sleep. I'm looking at trialing some myself. My husband's away at the moment. Maybe that's why the last couple of weeks of her sleep has been fantastic. That's certainly a possibility. But yeah, there's some really good earplugs out at the moment for sleep specifically that are comfortable to wear on your sides. I'm going to trial some of them as well, because my husband is a bit of a snorer. He says I'm a bit of a snorer, but we'll see about that. But anyway, that is, I think, really important too, if you're struggling with sleep, to just cover every single base. So I hope that's been helpful. If you're wanting to talk to me about your health and well-being, particularly as we're starting to come into towards the end of the year, you may be starting to think about next year. You may be thinking, gosh, I didn't meet my health, my weight loss goals this year. Maybe I need to really focus on that, really seriously, particularly if you're looking at weight loss above 15 to 20 kilos. That's where the work that I do really shines. I've got women at the moment on my program that are needing to lose 30, 40, and 50 kilos. I'm just signing up someone at the moment with an 80 kilo weight loss goal, which is awesome. I get so excited about working with these people because it's life-changing what I do with them. It is life-changing. So please don't hesitate. As I may have mentioned, I think last week, my prices are going up on the 18th of November. So that's just Saturday week. So if you book in for your discovery call, your pre-screening call with me prior to that, I can hold that price for you for a short period of time. But please reach out either at Susie Garden Wellness through Instagram, or go to my website, susiegarden.com. That's SUSIE garden.com, and you can go to the Glow Protocol or Metabolic Balance pages and book in your call. Thanks so much for listening. I hope this has been helpful for you. As I said, please reach out if you want to discuss further in the DMs, or if you're on Spotify, you can message me through the podcast app. Have a great week, and I will see you on Thursday for Q&A. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked today's episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you can get each new episode delivered to you every single week. If you like free stuff, and who doesn't, then head over to susiegarden.com and grab my 8 essential age-defying secrets every woman over 40 should know right now. Or if you'd like to continue the discussion, head over to Instagram and DM me at Susie Garden Wellness. I'd love to connect with you.